All right, let's dive in. Today, we're going to crack open one of the most powerful concepts in all of programming: how to make your code repeat itself. This is where we really go from just writing single commands to building dynamic, powerful applications. So, last time we were here, we talked all about how JavaScript handles equality, which is basically about making a single decision at a single point in time. But what happens when you need to make that same kind of decision over and over and over again? Well, that's where loops come into the picture. They're the engine that drives automation in your code. They're the tool that lets you process, say, thousands of items, or run a smooth animation, or even just wait for a user to click a button, all without writing thousands of lines of code. And you know what? That's not an exaggeration at all. Iteration really is the heartbeat of every algorithm. It's what lets a very simple set of instructions perform these huge, complex tasks. It's the pulse that actually brings your code to life. So that's the big question we're tackling today. How do we build this incredible power of repetition into our programs, but do it efficiently? Well, the answer lies in a family of tools that JavaScript gives us specifically for iteration. All right, let's get into it. First up, we've got the classic for loop. If you think about your programming knowledge as a toolbox, the for loop is your all-purpose hammer. It's dependable, it's powerful, and trust me, you're going to be reaching for it a lot. The for loop is your go-to when you know exactly how many times you need to do something. Just look at the code here. It's designed to run that console.log a very specific number of times. It starts at 0, it keeps going as long as our counter, I, is less than 5, and it logs the number 0 all the way through 4. Simple as that. Now, what's really cool is how this breaks down into 3 clean parts. First, you've got the initialization. Let I equal 0. This only happens once, right at the beginning. Then you have the condition, I less than 5. This gets checked before every single pass. If it's true, we go. If it's false, we stop. And finally, the update, I++. This runs after each pass. It's a super simple but powerful pattern. Start, stop, and step. But what if you need to get out early? Maybe you're searching for something and you find it on the second try. That's exactly what break is for. Think of it like an emergency stop button. The second your code hits break, the loop is over. Done. No more questions asked. Now, continue is a little more subtle. It doesn't stop the whole thing. Instead, it just says, hey, I'm done with this specific round. It completely skips the rest of the code for that one iteration and jumps right on ahead to the next one. It's perfect for when you want to ignore certain items you don't need to process. Okay, let's move on to our next set of tools. So if the for loop is a hammer that you swing a set number of times, then while and do while are more like sensors. See, these loops don't really care about a fixed count. They just keep on running as long as a certain condition stays true. So what's the big difference between these two? Well, it all comes down to when they check the condition. A while loop is cautious. It checks the condition first. If that condition is false from the get-go, the code inside the loop never even runs once. A do-while loop, on the other hand, is a bit bolder. It runs the code first, and then it checks the condition. That means it is absolutely guaranteed to run at least one time. Here we've got a classic while loop. This is what you'd use when you don't know exactly how many times you'll need to iterate. Maybe you're waiting for a file to download, or for a user to finally type done. Here, as long as that condition count less than 3 is true, this loop is going to keep on chugging. Now check this out. In this do-while example, the condition while count is less than 3 is obviously false right from the start since count is 5. But because the check happens at the end, the code inside that do block still runs once. This is super useful for things like, say, prompting a user for input and then checking if it's valid, because you have to get the input at least once to check it. I absolutely love this analogy because it just sticks in your head, right? While cautiously asks, hey, is it okay if I run? The for loop just confidently says, I'm running exactly 5 times. And do while just barrels in and says, I'm running now, and then I'll ask if I should do it again. Okay, so far we've been counting things and checking conditions. But let's be real. Most of the time in programming, we need to go through collections of data, like all the items in an array or all the properties in an object. And for that, we have some more specialized navigation tools. The for-in loop is built for one thing, really, objects. As you can see right here in the example, it goes over the property keys. Now, notice what it gives you. It's not Ali or 25, it's the names of the properties themselves, name and age. From there, you can use those keys to get the values if you need them. Now contrast that with for of. This is the modern, much cleaner, and usually preferred way to loop over things like arrays or even strings and maps. It's so clean and simple, and as you can see, it gives you what you almost always want, the actual values from the collection. No keys, no confusing indices, just the data itself. This brings up a fantastic question, and it's a trap a lot of people fall into. Technically, an array is an object in JavaScript, so for-in will work on it. But what do you think it's going to give us? The values 10, 20, and 30? Let's find out. And there's the surprise. It gives you the array indices, the positions, and it gives them to you as strings. This is almost never what you actually want, and it can lead to some really sneaky bugs in your code. So the takeaway here is super clear. Use for-in for objects, and please, use for-of for arrays. Okay, so we've just added a bunch of different loops to our toolbox. And the mark of a great developer isn't just knowing the tools. It's knowing exactly which tool to pull out for which job. This table right here, this is basically your cheat sheet. When you know the exact count, grab the for loop. When you're just waiting for some condition to change, while is your best bet. If you absolutely have to run the code at least once, that's a job for do while. And for data collections, it's simple. For-in for object keys, and the modern, awesome for-of for iterable values. And let's wrap this up with a few crucial best practices to keep in mind. Always, always prefer for-of for arrays. Be so careful to avoid infinite loops. Make sure your condition will eventually become false. And maybe most importantly, always write the clearest, most readable code you can. Your future self is going to thank you for it, I promise. Now that you've got a handle on how JavaScript loops and iterates, you have a really critical piece of the programming puzzle. So the next logical stop on our roadmap is control flow, where we're going to learn how conditional statements and error handling guide our program's every single decision. This is Developer Roadmaps. Map your path, build your career.